Hi, for this video, I'm just going to go over the roles of Broca's area and Wernicke's area governing language and how we comprehend language and how we process language in order to speak and respond to language. Um, so remember that language. Oh, well, I wanted to say this slide is actually found in the PowerPoint slide, and it's also found in your book. You could see the page number there. But again, so language is a complex form of communication, and we need to comprehend the language that we either hear or that we see from a written page, or if you're understanding sign language, from the hand gestures, right? And then, so we have to comprehend that language, and then we want to formulate a plan to speak in order to respond to what we're hearing. So again, that happens in two areas of the brain. Wernicke's area is one here, highlighted in the blue, and that's located, it's only on the left cortex, left cerebral cortex, but it's at a juncture of the parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes. So it's not its own little area. It's a little bit of the parietal, little bit of the temporal, and a little bit of the occipital lobe. Okay, so again, this is concerned with language comprehension. Broca's area, also only on the left cerebral hemisphere, but it's located in the left frontal lobe, and it's in close association with the motor areas, right? The premotor cortex, that's associated with control of the muscles necessary for speaking. Okay, so I like to highlight this part of the brain and how it functions, because it gives a really good example of just how a sequence of patterns of neurons functions in order to get a particular response. And that's really what the nervous system is. It's a sequence of patterns of neuronal functioning. One, a presynaptic neuron stimulating a postsynaptic neuron, and so on and so forth. So again, I really like this one. And this lays it out really well for you, these steps. So I'm not going to deviate too much from these steps, but we just want to put this together. So let's start with, so if you want to speak about something you've seen, right? So either you read some words or you're watching sign language. Okay, so that's the sensory input coming from the uh, optic nerve. Almost forgot that name. From the optic nerve, right? And the optic nerve goes to the primary visual cortex, right? Back here in the occipital lobe, okay? And then it sends, so that tells you I'm seeing words, right? And what it's going to do is it's going to send that information then to the association cortex, right? And it's going to integrate it as sight in this case. If you hear something, right, so you're hearing somebody speaking words, then again, that information is coming from the auditory nerve into the temporal lobe, right, into the auditory cortex, the primary auditory cortex. And again, then that's also going to be transferred via neurons to that association cortex over here in the parietal, temporal, and occipital association cortex. Okay, so whether it's seen, first goes through the through the occipital lobe. If it's heard, it first goes through the temporal lobe, but they both end up into this association cortex here. Okay, then that information, again, all it is stimulating neurons. It's a strong enough graded potential to start an action potential to neurons that are connected now to Wernicke's area. Okay, and so it's in Wernicke's area now where neurons are being stimulated, where the choice and sequence of words to be spoken are formulated. Okay, so the comprehension came in the association area, and now you're comprehending it and you're formulating the sequence of words that you want to say, right, in order to respond to what you either heard or what you saw. Okay. I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't have my pointer on, but I think you can see my arrow now. Okay. Okay, so now this language command, okay, has to be transmitted to Broca's area. Okay, so as it gets this arrow here gets, the number 3 is for this arrow up here. Okay, so 1A is the occipital lobe if you see something. 1B is the auditory cortex if you hear something, and those are both going now to number 2, right? To Wernicke's area, where you're determining the sequence of words to be formulated. Okay. That language command then, again, through nerves, through the axons now, go over to Broca's area. Okay, and if it's a strong enough potential, graded potential, that action potential travels to Broca's area. Okay, and then that translates that message into a programmed sound pattern. So what it means is that you've determined in Wernicke's area what you want to say. Broca's area now is programming the pattern of speech. Broca's area is saying, in order to say this, we need to have this pattern of muscles being stimulated. Then that gets transferred to the primary motor cortex, to that area of the cortex that controls your lips, your tongue, everything needed to program speech. And then that axon travels down through the white matter, through the diencephalon, the thalamus, through the brainstem, out to the spinal cord, to the nerves that, actually not the spinal cord, that would stay up in the brainstem, to the nerves that control your tongue and your lips and things like that. Okay, and then you can say that. So that's what number 4 says for you. So I would like you to know this pattern. I might ask you to give me the pattern of, or the sequence of neurons that get stimulated if you see words, read something, or if you hear something. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to go through how do Wernicke's area and Broca's area help you to comprehend language and then program how you're going to respond. Okay. And these, I just want to mention too, these are the areas where language disorders occur. And so people who have damage to Broca's area, then they can't formulate words, right? They understand what you're telling them, but they can't formulate the appropriate words that they want to say, and they actually end up not being able to express themselves. Damage to Wernicke's area means they cannot understand the words that they see or hear. So they can speak fluently because Broca's area isn't damaged, but they don't have the planned pattern, a sequence of words correct because that's damaged. So it comes out what we call a word salad. It's just a bunch of words that are strung together that to you wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so that's oftentimes if somebody has a stroke or damage to the brain, if doctors can start talking to them, they can pinpoint, even without touching the person, what area of the brain might have gotten damaged if it's Wernicke's or Broca's area. Okay, your book talks about dyslexia. So dyslexia is another language disorder, and it's difficulty in learning to read, even though intelligence is normal, right? This has nothing to do with intelligence. It just suggests that dyslexia stems from deficit in the processing of the phonation, okay, phonics, right? Meaning an impaired ability to break down the written words in the underlying phonetic components. And so it's hard for people with dyslexia to decode and identify meaning to words. It just means that they have to learn it differently. So once they get into a program to be able to learn how to do that, everything else falls right into place. So it's just a kind of a different way of learning, but it affects some of the same areas here. Okay, thank you, everybody.